I'm our student engagement librarian, but I am firmly nestled into our first year experience program, which means I do a lot of teaching to English 101 and 102 students on like information literacy and library instruction. Outside of that, I've been teaching in some capacity for more than the last decade. So I spend a lot of my time right here. So I've done a lot of presentations, a lot of instruction, and I've also spent my time looking at different instructional design techniques and tools. So I do tend to have a lot of experience in what we're going to go over today. And we're basically going to break down today's presentation into two different categories. We're going to talk about like actually presenting, and then we're going to go over some tools. But before we get started, how many of you present or teach in front of a classroom regularly? Okay, half-ish. How does that go for you? Some so-sos, some laughing. What do you usually do? Okay, half of you raised your hands, so I know you've got some experience. How do you usually teach or present? Standard classroom, in person, online?
I teach a hybrid class.
Hybrid class, okay. How confident are you in presenting? So? Okay, well, hopefully today we'll learn some cards for up your sleeves, right? So when I think about presenting, we'll go over what I call the 4 Ps of presenting. I was gonna try to, there we go. The first one is prepare, right? Anytime you go to make a presentation, you should prepare. And that looks different for everyone. For me, I'm an outliner. So I outline instead of do a script, just because a lot of my teaching is I move around a lot. I crack a lot of jokes. I try to be pretty casual and therefore approachable. But you have to kind of figure out your style that best suits you. And either way you do outline, maybe note cards, obviously print a piece of paper, you do want to make sure that you remain consistent in how you organize your information. So if you use index cards to prepare for your presentation, maybe they're numbered, and you know that each index card is 1 slide on your presentation. That's where all of your information is going to be. I print paper and I do a numbered outline. I know each time that I advance a number, I advance a slide. So any kind of visual cues that you can give yourself to prepare for the presentation is going to set you up for success. Something else you also want to do to prepare is practice, right? Whether that's just individually in your office, you kind of run through it, whether it's in front of friends because you want feedback, a mirror so you can see kind of how you're presenting to everyone. You just want to make sure you run through it at least once. And it's really a good idea to do that with a timer, right? Many presentations, class periods are within a set window. So you need to make sure that you're hitting your marks at the right time. You're leaving enough time for interacting, for Q&A. You're not going too fast or too slow. And the timer's a good strategy to kind of help pace you. You also, when you prepare, want to have backups, right? Because you never know, especially if you're traveling to present, what the situation is going to be. Our presentation today, I'm online. I'm just presenting from an online software, but right before I came down here, I made sure that I had a copy on a flash drive, because what if you don't have internet where you're presenting? I also did not make this presentation in PowerPoint. I made it in an online tool called Canva, which we'll talk about later. If you download that for an offline viewing and export it into PowerPoint, sometimes things get really wonky. Fonts change, graphics change. I have found that best way to prepare an alternative method of your presentation is actually just export it to a PDF. Any kind of presentation tool that you're using, including PowerPoint, will let you export to a PDF. And Adobe does let you full screen PowerPoint slides. Your links still work. It's in a flat file, so nothing will change font wise. And it's a great kind of backup to have in your pocket for when things might not go your way. You also should prepare with a drink, right? Water, preferably. This is a great tool. One, you're doing a lot of talking. You might get parched. You might get a catch in your throat. But it's also a tool to use to your advantage when it comes to Q&A. If you don't have the answer quite prepared, take a sip of water. That's a great way to buy time and to kind of collect yourself. You can also do that in your presentation if you find the nerves are kind of building, maybe you're getting a little anxious. Take a second, take a drink of water, right? Half of you have taught in some capacity. I would argue that, some people are naturally gifted, those strange extroverts that exist. They're fine with being in front of a classroom. I'm a librarian. I read a lot of books. I'm an introvert. I'm hoping that I'm presenting to you as rather put together and confident, but you guys just can't see that I'm still a little sweaty, right? So nerves happen no matter how many times you practice or how many times you present. So you need to learn strategies that you can implement for yourself to really kind of slow down that pace and root you more in what you're doing. Another really good way to prepare is to dress comfortably, right? Neat, professional, you want to match whatever audience you're engaging with. But when you go to do a big presentation, that's not the time to try a new pair of shoes. You don't know where they're going to pinch. You don't want to trip. That's always my fear. I'm going to eat dirt right at the front of the podium. You want to be comfortable and confident and anything to kind of alleviate that anxiety, right? Because ultimately, your presentation is a performance. You are in front of people, which means you need to do things like make eye contact, right? You need to be engaging, have some momentum, captivate your audience. I generally walk a lot. I'm trying to stay more this way so I remain on frame for our Zoom audience. But when I'm teaching, I'm using the whole classroom to engage with students. I'm walking around to engage with students. I do a lot of Vanna White pointing, right? Having that kind of didactic movement to get people engaged and intrigued in what you're doing. You also want to speak slowly, clearly, to be articulate. That comes with practice, right? And to be enthusiastic about what you're presenting on. The other, I think, biggest tip I have for the performing part of presenting, don't apologize. I think we apologize a lot for like inconveniencing, and that's the wrong frame. I want to thank you for your patience as I deal with this technology issue, right? But I'm not apologizing because that puts me in a place of like I did something wrong that I had no control over. You also want to employ that when you are in your Q&A portions. If somebody asks you a question that you don't know the answer, don't say, I'm sorry, I don't know. Don't apologize. See, that's a great question. I'm not entirely sure on the answer. Why don't we connect after the presentation? I'll get your email address and I'll follow up with you after. I want to make sure I tell you the right information, but don't apologize, because when you're up here, you are the point of authority, right? And you want to maintain that, whether you feel it or not, you want to maintain it, right? So, when you present, this is getting more into actual your PowerPoint, right? General practice, it's great to start with a hook. You can frame that as a question, as a story, right? I asked you guys, do you teach? How does it go? What are you feeling like? That does a lot to set the tone for the presentation. We are in conversation, right? I'm expecting you to engage with me. I'm expecting you to give me your attention. Maybe you're framing it in a story because what you're presenting on is a lot of data and you want to contextualize, like, why is this important for you to hear? I also started with telling you about my experience. Why am I an authority person to talk to you about presentation tools and tricks? Why should you listen to me, right? having that kind of frame really helps engage your audience. Also, when you make presentation slides or materials, there's the rule of 40. No font should be smaller than 40. In this classroom, we're kind of at a small disadvantage. It's a pretty small screen. Can you see what this says? Yes, okay. This is 48 size font. I wanted to be extra sure because I knew this is a small monitor. And that can feed back into your prepare, right? Know the space that you're going into and some potential challenges. But the rule of 40 is a good place to start from. So large fonts. You also want to make sure that you don't have a lot of text on the slide. That's because this helps you frame what I'm talking about, but you have to be listening to me. You have to be engaged with me to actually get the knowledge, right? If I have a bunch of writing on the slides, you're either reading that and you're not listening to me, or you're doing something else, right? So minimal font on slides. You can also use color and illustrations to bring emphasis, right? So I have prepare and present as one color because those kind of go together in my head, right? You're preparing to present your presentation, right? Versus perform and provide, those are things I'm doing for you, right? I'm teaching you, I'm performing, and I'm going to provide you with something in a bit outside of just the knowledge and the enjoyment of my company, right? So you can use color to link things as well as illustrations. And you want to make sure when you're presenting that you kind of engage different media. So far, it's been a lot of lecture. I've been teaching you things. I've been showing you some things on the slide. Later, we're going to get into some more multimedia aspects, but I wanted to talk about it now because we're talking about what you're going to do when you're presenting, right? You want to make sure you work that kind of stuff in. That includes things like examples, contextualizing your information in real life applications, helps student connect with the materials, right? Another thing you can do when you're thinking about preparing for how you're going to present is you want to take notes potentially of what slides you can skip if you're short on time. Because no matter how many times you practice, even with the timer, maybe you get up here, you're a little more nervous, you're speaking a little quicker, maybe you need to drag things out and you need to know what sides you can do that and what sides you can cut. So if you guys had been like super enthusiastic and you wanted to tell me all about this awful instruction session you did where you were really unprepared, I'm going to give you that space because I've set the expectation that we're in discourse, but maybe that is a great conversation that somebody else contributes to, and we stay there for maybe 10 minutes. I need to know what slide I can kind of skip on through later in the presentation. And the last P is provide, right? Ties into kind of that multimedia. You are providing knowledge. That's why you're here. That's why you're presenting. But you want to provide predominantly ways to engage your audience, right? I'm a big fan of games and interactive elements. You guys are going to play a game with me later, so just get ready, okay? But this often in teaching takes the form of like group activities, right? We're really fond of things. Have you guys ever heard the term think, pair, share? What is think, pair, share? I'm calling you out because you nodded.
Yes.
Behind you actually, but if you know, if you would like to answer.
Sure.
Okay, do you know what it means?
You think of like a concept or an answer to a question, then you partner up with somebody around you or a group. And then you share what each of you guys thought of.
Exactly, right? Like that's a low bar, easy tool that you can implement in a presentation or a classroom. You guys are in a group, you're going to talk about this question, you're going to come up with an answer, and then you're going to share out to the classroom, right? Other group activities. You want to provide information that people can take away from your presentation. Some of you are taking notes, some of you are listening. We're, again, that multimedia, different level of learning styles. So I've actually made a bookmark that you guys can take with you. for the presentation. So it's something you can refer back to because I'm gonna go over a lot of stuff here in a bit. A lot of names that you might wanna take a look back at. You can also incentivize with prizes, right? Candy, students love candy. We are gonna play a game later. There will be a prize, right? Sorry, Zoom, I'll give you a virtual candy badge. Another thing you want to provide at the end is a clear summary of what you talked about. Because we've spent the first part of our presentation talking about the 4 Ps, and then we're going to move into a lot of really cool tools in which some of this might have been lost, right? Depending on the length of your lecture or your presentation. So you want to give like your elevator pitch, key takeaway summary at the end as a provide. You also might provide notes for after. Not a big fan of putting, like I said, a lot of text on the slides, but maybe if I'm teaching like a full, 50-minute lecture, I will share my outline after class, right? Because right now you're engaged with me, I'm forcing you to listen to me, but afterwards I might give you my notes in case I went a little too fast or something was a little confusing. You can also take notes for yourself, right? So I can take away something for myself after this of like, oh, hey, I asked that question at the beginning and people didn't want to answer it. So then maybe think of a different hook at the beginning, right? Because you're constantly going to be improving your presentations and what you go through. Any questions or thoughts on the 4 Ps presentation? Okay. So let's talk about tools, which is probably what you guys really care about, right? Because I'm assuming you've given presentations, you've probably heard a lot of my beginning spiel before. Maybe this is where we hit some new content and some ground together. PowerPoint, how many of you have used PowerPoint? Okay, almost all. Google Slides? Okay, again, a good half. I'm not going to spend time really telling you about those, you already know. I will draw your attention to, though, here at U of I, we do have a brand toolkit, and you will get copies of the slides with links afterwards, right? The takeaway at the end. So you will be linked to this page, and there are presentation templates that the university offers. So if you want to stay within UI brand standard, you can tell by my presentation, I play a little fast and loose with the brand, have it at the beginning, but then I get a little fun towards the end there. But now is always the great thing with Zoom, getting back to your presentation at the top. Well, I made this presentation in Canva. Has anybody used Canva? Okay, a couple of hands. Canva is a great tool. Every resource that I'm going to go over with you today is free, by the way. None of this is, they all usually have subscription based where it gets you advanced things, but you can do everything I'm going to tell you with free applications. So Canva is a great tool to build presentations, flyers, the bookmarks I passed out that matches our slide aesthetics. That was made in Canva, right? Here's my GSE bookmark. You can do a lot in Canva and a lot of it's free. Totally full of different stock of little images. I'm a big Canva proponent. And another tool that is very similar is Visme. Has anybody used this before? Okay. We'll continue. It is incredibly similar to Canva, where okay, cool, thanks. You have kind of just an online platform where you can create projects, and there's tons of templates. So we'll take a look at this one. Both Canva and Visme, when you go to the home page, you can search templates. So for this, like graduate student essentials, I searched books in presentation because I'm a librarian and I have a book problem. And so I wanted graphics that have like cute little book things and pencils. We're all in, you know, a class, right? So you can search a lot of easy to access templates that you can customize. But FISME, what is very similar, what they have is better is data. So if you're doing a presentation where you're talking about your research or a study, you might actually start here because this application has way more functionality with diagrams, charts, graphics, widgets, tables, maps, things like that. Canva does as well, but it's more visual art than it is data based. And you can see, you can even like kind of tell by just the website's design, it's very more straightforward, a little bit more rigid. So it has larger capabilities in that area. A lot of it is just input CSV files, and it's really easy to upload and download your information into this free application. Prezi, is anybody familiar with Prezi? Okay, and I saw a couple, I've never used it. I'm not a huge fan, but it kind of blends the like presentation and interactiveness in a way. It looks very similar to a PowerPoint and how it operates and how you add information, except it aims to do this kind of like holistic overview. So we start with this kind of landing page that is your whole presentation. And then as you advance your slides, it zooms in. I don't like this because it's a little visually jarring because we're done talking about this and we pull back out. I don't get dizzy very easily, but depending on the length of your presentation and how many times you're zooming in further, it might get a little disorienting. But it is a good tool if you're mainly showing like pictures and you want to create that holistic narrative. So rather than like a linear progression of like the Canva PowerPoint or Microsoft PowerPoint, it does kind of have a different vibe and feel, but you definitely want to craft your content to the medium and vice versa. But it is a free presentation tool that is out there that generally gets some buzz around it. Oh, wasn't watching where I was actually clicking in my presentation. Okay. Online tools. How many of you teach asynchronous classes or online classes? Okay. Sometimes, maybe occasionally, maybe you will in the future. There's a lot of online tools you can use as education models. Again, all of these free. Zoom, the extended version is free while you are here at U of I. Afterwards, the basic model has a lot less functionality, but how many of you have done Zoom meetings? I have Zoom meetings on, right? Almost everybody. So we won't talk about it. How many of you have done EasyVid? No one. Okay. So Easy is kind of old, but it is free. So, right, the university used to have Camtasia. We still have it at the library. EasyVid is like a free alternative. It's a screen recording software where it records your audio as well as captures your screen and allows you to edit frame by frame. So you can draw like attention to your mouse and things of that nature. But it is kind of a dated platform. It is a little clunky, but free is free. So that is a tool. Loom is kind of like if Zoom and EasyVid came together in a really simple form. Has anybody used Loom? Okay. It is a screen recording, audio capturing. It's very basic though. There's not really editing capacities. It's generally target like instead of having another all hands on deck meeting to go over a document, you record a short video in which you're walking through the document and then you send that out and you can put it on people's calendar. but it's a video recording that happens asynchronously. So it is a streamlined, simplistic tool, but is free, can be really convenient. Scribe, has anybody heard of Scribe? Okay, good, we're getting all the new things today, okay. Scribe is for when you don't want to do a screen recording. If you're looking to create a process document, like maybe you're trying to walk students through like how to find something on a website or through an assignment, you kind of want to narrate what you're looking for. Scribe is a like web extension that will capture your screen and you talking, but it'll turn it into a text-based document with AI, right? So really great. Again, we talk about having like multimedia for different learning styles. Some people learn really well by just listening to a lecture. Some need to read it or slow down and interact like in a hands-on manner. Scribe's a great tool for that because you can walk through step by step, pause, come back, refer. VoiceThread though, does anybody teach an asynchronous course? Okay, this is a really, if you are ever in a position where you need to teach asynchronously or give content asynchronously, VoiceThread is a really good tool. We're gonna watch this quick little video that will kind of walk through some highlights.
Is the media player that has a highly interactive.
Make sure if you share your screen, you're sharing sound. Just so everyone on Zoom can hear it too.
Screen sharing.
You might need to stop and then reshare just to make sure.
Let's pause. And we will reshare, reshare.
So if you click share screen, it'll give you the option to share sound.
Ah. Okay. It's a really short video, but let's back it up.
A VoiceThread is a media player that has a highly interactive discussion space built right within it. Teachers or students upload pictures, videos, presentations, or documents into this online collection that looks and feels like a slideshow, but it's what comes next that's most important. After the media is added, teachers and students will record comments about it, presenting their work, asking questions and answering them, critiquing each other's ideas, and engaging in an ongoing conversation. The skills that students will develop using VoiceThread are exactly the skills now widely accepted as critical to successful learning, working, and frankly, just plain living in the 21st century. One of the least known and most interesting facts about VoiceThread is its diversity of uses, from recording kindergartners' narrative storytelling all the way through postgraduate studies in business and medical schools. It's the very same tool used in hundreds of different ways to great effect. So after taking a look at this video, head on over to voicethread.com/research to see all the third-party research that's been conducted on VoiceThread's impact on teaching and learning.
Okay. So the reason I say this is really powerful if you're teaching asynchronously, also if you're sharing your research asynchronously, right? Because you can have those integrated like screen recordings where you're maybe walking through your data, you're highlighting things, but then people can actually interact with you and with the content and with each other, right? So it's like taking maybe discussion threads you're familiar with in Canvas, but adding like video capacity in a really streamlined way. And all of it lives within that slide deck, within that group, and you can create multiple projects where people can communicate that way. So it's a really, really great tool if you're kind of teaching or following up after a presentation to either solicit feedback or continue the conversation onward. Other great things to think about when you're designing presentations are graphics and photos, right? There are tons of websites that will give you free stock photos that are really high quality. A couple I've listed, Unsplash, Pixabay. Pexels is my favorite. We can take a look here. So this is just a really pretty bookshelf, right? I mentioned I like books. that I found on Pexels, and you can see that it's free to use, the copyright license, you can get more information, the free download, and Pexels is full of not only like user updated images of a casual nature, but really high quality stock photos. Who has like a research topic that you're currently interested in potentially presenting on? Or an area of interest?
Opsin protein. You can search opsin protein,
Ops including?
opsin, OPSIN. OP, P
Oh.
for parrot. Protein.
Whoop. That one might be a little specific.
Animal and
Ag, okay. What specifically?
dairy.
Dairy. So gonna give you a lot of like dairy products, right? But there's a really cute picture of a cow. Right? Stock image, and you can click on it. So not only is it usually really high quality, free to use, you can look at things like aspect ratio, dimension, when it was taken, the type of camera it was taken with, in case you're interested in that. And Pixels does this cute little thing where it pulls out like primary colors. So you can then use these colors in your presentation to tie in that kind of subliminal way with the photo, right? Yes.
You wanna try another, we have someone in Zoom
Ooh.
who suggested image sensors.
Okay, so you get a lot of really mixed stuff, right? I don't know if this really is pertinent to what you were looking at. I would hazard maybe no, so maybe we would go to that Pixabay or that Upsplash is a lot of more like artist-based work rather than stock images. Pexels is really about like stock photos. Upsplash is more like people promoting their own artwork too. So might find more specific or nuanced type of things, like maybe there is something for your topic in there, right? Tons of resources, and those are generally more for photo. If you're looking for illustrations or graphics, right, Canva has a lot of free things. SVG repo, do you guys know what SVG means?
Yeah, it's a file format.
It's, yeah, so it's a scalable vector graphic. I had to look it up. But those are when you're trying to do things like maybe you want to make a sticker for your presentation as like your takeaway item. Generally, if you're working with an SVG, you can customize it a little bit more. So this is FreePic, which does also have more stock photos and user uploaded photos, but it has a lot of SVG files. So this is a cute little book stack that I found. And you can see, again, you get all of the information you need. So attribution is required, but the license is free. And you can click on these links, like they tell you how would you attribute it, things like that. So I can see for this image that FreePic actually made the image. So if I go to use this and maybe I want to make it into a sticker, so I want to remove the background, I would make the sticker, and then at the bottom of my image, I might add like image supplied by FreePic, right? So that's my attribution is covered. It's free to use. If you're including this in your website or your presentation, you know, just to the right-hand side of the image provided by FreePic. That's what they mean by attribution, but it's full of free things. Now, it is like an AI generated remove background. So you do get like some quirky things that happen. Like if I look at this one, this is another cute book stack. Maybe I want to make this one into a sticker. It is computer generated, so sometimes we might lose pieces. Okay, this one did an okay job, but you can kind of see, right? I'll do it on Zoom as well. So we lost like a little bit of the leaf right here, so it just kind of looks funny. So maybe I import that into Canva and I try to like color it in with a pencil right before I make that sticker. But there are other ways you can enhance both your presentation, your giveaway materials, things like that. As promised, though, the big thing I like to do with presentation is games or gamification, right? This comes in a ton of different modes. Things that I've used in the past and I'm a big proponent of are a lot of DIY methods, right? Because there's so many free options out there. I've taught classes where I make paddles for classes, right? So this is a way, we talked about like think, pair, share. This is kind of a low stakes way to involve the class, right? Because you're not, cold calling students, but they're still interacting with you. So this was a game in which we were presenting students with like a tweet and they had to like do some investigation and tell me if it was fake news or if it was real. So exploring misinformation, disinformation, things like that. You can do call and response. If you get the question right, you get a piece of candy, things of that. Other free fun things you can do are things like presentation bingo. This is another really great one. I didn't make one for you guys, so I apologize. But what you can create a free bingo card, show it in Zoom as well. And it just has on it different topics that I would have covered in my presentation. So while I'm presenting, you're actively engaged with your bingo card, right? And the first one that gets a bingo, because it's randomly generated, gets a prize, right? This is another way you can ensure that your audience is listening to you, right? Because they have incentive, they're trying to win, right? Competition is good. Group activities, great way to play games as well. And those are great for in-person instruction sessions or when you're presenting, but there are a bunch of online gamification tools as well. Has anybody ever used Slido? Okay, a couple of them. All right, so Slido and Poll Everywhere, very similar. It's a way that you can do like live polling interactive within your presentation. So you can have questions that multiple choice, you can generate word clouds, get instant feedback via quizzes. And really, it's a great way to kind of stop and knowledge check in your presentation, see if people are still with you. And Slido does have the capacity to kind of give you like some analytics around engagement. Poll Everywhere doesn't really have that functionality. It's much more streamlined, but it's very basic again. So a lot of the tools, I'll tell you one that's really flashy and one that's a little older and a little more streamlined depending on your usage, right? Mentimeter is another kind of gamification online tool that is questions, polls, things like that. Quizzes is my favorite. We're going to look at it here in a bit. But how many of you use Quizlet or have heard of Quizlet? Either as a student, how have you used Quizlet? Just like the flashcards? Yeah, is that same? I have the app on my phone because again, book nerd. So if I come across a word that I don't really know the definition to, right? Because we tend to do this a lot. We think we know the word, but then if you're asked to define it, suddenly gets a little difficult. So I have like a slide deck on my phone of vocabulary flashcards. And that I think is the way people are most familiar with Quizlet, but Quizlet does have like a live gamification aspect. So Quizlet Live is what it's called, and
Welcome to Quizlet Live, the fun classroom learning game used by millions of teachers around the world. With Quizlet Live, you can create a study game in seconds that engages students through competition and collaboration. All you need to do is select your study set and click Live. Quizlet Live will then automatically generate a game. Students enter the game by scanning a QR code or by entering a unique 8-digit code. Teams mode encourages communication and collaboration between students as they work together across their devices to find the correct answer. While individual mode is great for smaller groups or virtual learning. You can track your students' progress through an automatic leaderboard as they master subjects one game at a time. Give Quizlet Live a try today, the fun, competitive learning game for ultimate student engagement.
So this is a great tool, not only because you can use it to gamify your lectures, but then it does double duty because you're also then providing a flashcard set to your students that they can engage with after you're done or can refer back to. So that's a really great tool. But I mentioned quizzes is one of my favorites. So we're gonna play a game. If you have a phone, you can scan this QR code. My Zoom online, this should work for you as well. And I might need to launch it really quick, so it might pause. I know I just blocked you guys. Oh, I already hear you guys in there. Great. I'll get back just to give people a little bit more time. Oh, I didn't. Let me get here. We'll do it from here. Okay, we got about 10 people. We'll call it there. So on your phones, you should be seeing a question. Anybody want to read out what the question is? Go ahead. Okay, so I'm asking a true false question. Is the University of Idaho state itself? Okay, and I can see in real time how we're doing. Perfect. Okay, so you guys are already advancing, right? We had the true false state of mind. We also had U of I's Aberdeen Research and Extension Center is the birthplace of the Clearwater Golden Potato, which implies what fast food chain with their food fries? It is McDonald's. It is McDonald's. Isn't that interesting? And the University of Idaho is right. This one I thought might be tricky. So our third question, which it looks like one person got correct, good job. The University of Idaho and Utah State University became the first research center to clone what animal worldwide in 2003? It is a mule, right? Okay. Oh, there we go. Now we're getting some corrections. Just mute that sound. There we go. I was just, sorry, Zoom. I was reading the questions. We were kind of having some discussion about it. So pretty fun. I just try to find some like fun facts about the University of Idaho, right? That would be fun. But you can customize this. Quizzes is really nice because it's again free. It does have the basic limit has a game size limit, but it's 100. So if you're teaching or presenting to an audience of over 100, I still think it's probably safe because not everybody's going to join in. But it's a good tool. And then it'll tell you, woohoo! So we have a winner, Tandy. Absolutely. This will be here for the rest of you after for the workshop as well. But yeah, and so then you can see a breakdown, right, of questions. So it can also be helpful for you as an assessment tool, if you're interested, but it's just really fun to like get people engaged, right? This was kind of, I didn't ask you questions about my presentation. I just asked you fun things, but generally that's how you would probably use it, right? Okay. So, yeah, we're still sharing, still good. So that was our game. And I did it again where you gotta be super careful where you click. So that's what I have for you as my workshop, right? So a lot of presentation strategies, the 4 Ps, remember, to prepare, perform, present, and provide. As well as a lot of really cool tools. Some of my favorite, all of which are free for you to use in your classrooms, but you can also access previous workshops from the Graduate Student Essentials series on the library website. Again, you'll get a copy of these slides for that link, as well as you can always see the other workshops that will be in this series on the library's main event page. So maybe we'll see some of you back for some of these other interesting topics. And other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions or go over anything. Yeah.
Do have 2 questions actually
Yeah.
about the tools.
Mhm.
Would you recommend like using Canva over PowerPoint or Google Slide?
I do, just because I find it much more engaging. You know, PowerPoint has come a long way with kind of like their stock templates, but Canva has so many like pre-built things. So like, let's say I can't spell. Say you're an engineering student and you're like going over a project. You can look at Canva templates. You can say, we want to do a presentation. And I want to make sure I'm only seeing the free ones, right? So nothing that's gonna need the pro account to like have certain graphics. So all of these are already done for you, right? So this one looks cool. You can kind of preview, there's a lot of really cute graphics. The slides are kind of already set up for you, and then you really just customize the content around what you're inserting. That's what I do for all of my presentations. I think Canva's aesthetically pleasing. There's a lot of good graphics in there. And when you get into designing, you can really customize a lot of stuff. So I've sometimes looked at a pro version of a slide and then just looked at, you can actually see which things have the watermarks, remove them, and look for free alternatives if you find an aesthetic you really like. So that's why I do it. The only other thing, if I'm trying to create like a complex infographic, you can do it in Canva, but that Visme has more chart functionality.
My second question is, what about Microsoft Teams and Google Meet?
Yeah, so like, yeah. A lot of the tools, especially like Slido, that Loom, video recording, a lot of these tools integrate to most meeting softwares. Teams, like we're a Microsoft campus, so like we have Teams. You can make presentations or make things and then share them in Teams. There's a lot of download and cross functionality with a lot of the tools. So I don't know if that quite gets to your question, or are you more asking like giving a presentation via those platforms?
Basically, because I find it odd that like we have Teams, but a lot of the university staff like we give you the link for Zoom on
Mhm.
Teams. You
Right.
already have the functionality.
Right. And I think that might be, I don't know if that's a COVID thing. Zoom does have, Zoom was a forerunner with a lot of the whiteboard breakout rooms, kind of instructional functionality, and Teams lagged behind a little bit in that. It's only in the last couple of years that they've really started to beef up a lot of their meeting interactive elements. So I assume it might be a hangover of that. But I find it also easier to just like hop on a Teams call rather than like create a Zoom meeting and share an invite. So it's really kind of up to like what flows better with you, and also the context that you're in, right? A lot of more like conference-based or academic-based stuff is still going to be in Zoom because of that breakout functionality. But if you're just like presenting to your classroom, hopping on a Teams call might be easier, right? Might have less technology issues because Zoom has to update every time that you try to launch a meeting, right? Other questions? Yeah.
I've used SpyRender a lot to create figures for my research that have, and it specifically has like a lot of STEM-based icons. Is that something that UI libraries would help us acquire? Because I know that you can, with the free, there is a free version. But you can't end up publishing with the free version. You'd have to purchase the paid option to
Okay.
publish any of your figures. Is there something, or even similar to that, that you are aware of?
Off the top of my head, no,
Okay.
but I can follow up with you. You said it was called
BioRender?
BioRender.
It is a paid one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's, you can get, basically.
I've
you can
heard of
create
it.
5 free templates on your own, so you can never have more than 5. But
Mhm.
now they've literally just in the last 2 months, they've added in a limit to how many icons you can have, which has like kind
Oh.
of screwed me over because
Okay.
you need to have a lot of icons. But
Yeah,
I just was curious if that's something that the
Yeah.
university would support.
we can definitely look into it.
Mhm.
There's a lot that goes into that decisions,
Yeah,
but I don't know
of
if you've ever spent any time in the data hub. Because we do a lot of work in the data hub or tech talks around kind of more STEM based
Okay.
research. So it's something that we could talk to that team about and look into. I will give you my card. If you wouldn't mind sending me an email, then I will look into it and connect you with the people who would be able to explore that a little deeper.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. The library is always interested in stuff like that. If you find yourself using tools that are limited in functionality, it never hurts to reach out and talk to us about like, hey, that happened with is it Qualcoder? No, we have Qualcoder. Atlas TI, which is like a coding based research platform that we had a couple of students be like, this is really great. Can we explore it? And we kind of looked into that. So definitely talk to us about it. Great. Any other?
It's
Yeah.
something related to the presentation style.
Mhm.
So although it's not common, but how you'll tackle a situation if you're presenting and in the middle of your presentation, someone stops you and asks about any like methodology or something like that. And you stop your like pace and you
Oh.
stuck somewhere and like how to continue with the same pace.
Yeah, okay, so, which, on my quiz slide, I had my references, so I would probably field that question with like, that's such a good point, I'm happy to go over my methodology with you, we can go through my references at the end, or maybe after the presentation, I can kind of walk you through my process. So you can, if you're not in a space to answer the question because you gotta get through your presentation, or like you've set time to answer questions, you can say, I'll address that at the end. I can address that after, and then whatever you need to do to kind of like take a moment to like recenter. So like maybe you grab a drink and you say like, okay, love the enthusiasm, guys, and then you kind of get back into it. So it's just kind of like a trial and error of like what works best for you, right? A lot of presenting is also kind of reading the room. So if you're getting like a lot of interruptions, maybe that's a note to yourself of like, okay, the next time I give this presentation, people are having a lot of questions about this, so maybe I need to like slow down here. So feedback within the moment, but then also like try not to let it derail you and just recenter, because you can always improve later, but you still got to get through the thing, right? Does that help? Okay, great question. Any other questions? Yeah.
How can we access some of these tools that you did?
They are all free. All of them are web-based applications, so if you got a bookmark, if you didn't, I'll give you one. If you just like Google any of these, they're usually the first link and they're all free. I link all of mine with my Google account, just so I don't have to remember all the sign-in things. And all of them are free to use or have a free version. Does that answer your question?
They have tutorials. I mean,
They do. A lot of Bizme might not have as many tutorials, but like definitely all of the like screen recording stuff will have walkthroughs. Most kind of tools like that will have some kind of learning library or templates that you can kind of play around, like sandbox with. But YouTube is also your friend. I YouTube a lot of things, like I need to make this thing work in PowerPoint, how? And I go to YouTube or Reddit is really great tool, crowdsource your information. Somebody out there knows how to do it, for sure. Other questions on Zoom or in person? Yeah,
Yeah, it's not it's not a question, but a piece of information.
okay, yeah,
As a tool, I think we can also use a Beamer. That's open software that if you have a lot of mathematical equations.
Okay.
That will be better. It's a piece of information.
yeah, that's really great to know.
Beamer is a.
Beamer is great.
It's an offshoot of LaTeX, which is.
Lots, I've heard that one.
It's the slide presentation version of.
Oh, okay, yeah. You can probably imagine I'm a librarian, so I don't do a lot of like STEM data sharing. I do more storytelling, which is what my stuff is kind of geared towards. But we do have different resources like that as well, and it's great to like share that amongst your fellow graduates. Anything else? Awesome. Thanks. Take some candy on your way out. Thanks for those on Zoom who joined us. My name is Tyler Rodriguez. You can find me on the library's website if you have any questions, want to follow up, need a book recommendation.
Thank you.
I'm here. Yeah, thanks, guys. Oh, thank you. Absolutely. Thank you.